One of the few things that can match the house-odoring potential of ginger is the smell of freshly baked bread. But this is not just any bread. Perhaps you can tell by the dark hue of the crust, or maybe you read the title of the episode. But this bread is special. Now allow me to introduce you to some simple sour science. Sourdough, that is. Who writes this stuff? Almost all sourdough in the known universe start with one of these. If you know one that doesn't start with one of these, let me know. It might be interesting. For now, though, this is my starter. His name is Bubble Butt. If you want a bubble butt of your own, this is what you need to do. Take 3 cups of warm water, 1.5 teaspoons of yeast, and a teaspoon of sugar. Let sit for 5 minutes until slightly frothy, and then add 3 cups of flour. If you want an extra sour starter, a 6-ounce dose of yogurt with active cultures will ensure that you actually have lactic acid bacteria present in your starter, instead of having to rely on the natural microflora. Allow to sit for about 12 hours before using, in a dry, slightly warm environment, like a closed oven. Yeast may be man's best friend, but our bubbly buddy here is much more feline and canine, in that he sits around all day, takes the shape of his container, and all you have to do to take care of him is to replace his food and water every once in a while. Now some of you might be wondering, what's going on in this library paste? Well, your flour, believe it or not, is covered in microbial critters, dormant and waiting for water to awaken them. Add to this the microbes in the air, on your hands, and in whatever you decide to add to your starter, and you have an eclectic mix. To see how all this works, imagine your starter is an empty apartment building. You are the manager, responsible for and making sure the building is kept moderately clean and stocked with food. There are 2 primary residents. The first are yeast, the construction workers who you can send off to make bread. The second type of residents are the lactic acid bacteria. In sourdough, these are most commonly lactobacilli, but Wasella, Pediococcus, and Leuconostoc also tend to do well in the environment. As tenants, LAB are less work and more play. They'll redecorate with polysaccharides, add sour amenities to their rooms, and even leave food lying around for others to nom on. By adding packet yeast and maybe yogurt, you fill the empty rooms of the apartments with microbes you know will get along, and your apartment complex will exist in peace and harmony, maybe for years to come. Until you set the complex on fire. And by that I mean, let's bake bread. A starter is a full-time commitment, like a baby, without the diapers, but just as smelly. And so you should make bread with it every week or so. And if you can't, you can freeze the starter for about a month. Just be sure to take out a cup and then replenish that cup with a cup of water and a cup of flour a day or so before using it. To make a simple sourdough, start with 1.5 cups of our bubbly buddy and replace whatever you use with equal parts of flour and water. Add 2 cups of bread flour and a teaspoon of salt, and also have a half cup of water standing by. Begin the mixing process, and add just enough water so that the dough takes up all the flour, and then mix it until it pulls away from the sides. Give the dough ball a light coat of oil or a damp towel to prevent drying out, and then let sit for an hour or more until the dough ball is doubled in size. If your house is cold, you can always let it rise in a slightly warm oven, which I almost always have to do. It's cold where I live. After the first rise, shape and roll the dough into a tight ball by pulling it into itself, and then let rest for another hour under a moist towel. Score the top and bake for an hour at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Spritzing with water to help with crust formation. Once out of the oven, you have to wait 30 minutes for it to cool. Okay, time's up. Now if you don't mind, I'm gonna go loaf around a bit.